All right, guys, welcome back to the banded rack pull setup for the channel. So with this work today, we are setting our spotter arms down into that mid shin. So ideally with these spotter arms, they can only go so low. So you can always add plates underneath your athletes as well if they're not up to mid shin. So ideally these are going to be around like a what you would call a 3-pin, 2-pin, something like that, maybe even a 4-pin. But obviously for me, it's right in the mid part of my shin right there. If I really want it to be a little bit lower into that mid shin, I just add a mat or a plate on. But for our setup today, we are doing a banded rack pull. So with this banded rack pull, we are going to need spotter arm to be all the way down toward the bottom part of that rack and that rig post. We are going to need 3 different pins. So this one, which is going to go on the most furthest end of the spotter arm. It's not going to go in the 1 hole or the 2 hole, the 3 hole, the 4 hole. It's going to go in the furthest hole, which is the 1 hole right here. 1 hole. Then our other pin is going to go all the way down towards the bottom part of the rack. Not in the 2nd hole, not in the 3rd hole up. It's going to go in the 1st hole, number 1 hole. And then obviously we have our nice little safety pin that's going to keep our rack pull spotter arm from obviously popping out. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to attach that band to that safety pin. That video will come up now. Then we're going to wrap it around that back part of that rig post. We are then going to bring it under the first peg. So it will not go over the first peg, it'll go under. We are then going to wrap it over that 2nd peg towards the end of our spotter arm. And then right over top our barbell. And then attaching it back to that rack pole and that pin that is right down on the bottom part of the rack. So that gives us our tension all the way through our lift. That allows your athletes to load it. And then I'll do a couple reps for you guys just so you know that this is exactly where it's going to be. Ideally, the weights are going to be within this area. Try not to touch that and try not to hit that peg, but it's going to happen. This is a setup with the work, with what allows for this setup. So that's how you can do it. But I'll show you exactly what I want. Feet right underneath the hips. Hands right on the outside of the smooth. And then you're good to go from there. So this is usually for speed work. There are many other uses for this setup, but that is our banded rack pull variation. Get after it, guys. Hit me with any questions you have.